So as we walk around, we're over here now with the Defender Wildland Apparatus. I'd like to introduce Mike Vernig, the President of REV Fire Group. Mike, thank you for having us.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for doing this. We really appreciate it.
Oh, this is fantastic. We got a nice group and a nice crowd here, so this is fantastic. And I'd like to introduce Mark Scott, the captain with LA County Fire. He's in charge of the equipment and development for LA County. Mark, thank you very much for joining us as well.
All right, thank you.
So, real quick, I'd like to introduce Mike as I did. Mike, give us a little background about the new product offering on this Type 3.
Yeah, so going back a little bit, I was a dealer in my earlier career out in California. And if you're in California, it's all about wildland. Wildland's also one of the largest growing areas in the fire service, and so as the REV Group with all 7 of our brands, we felt we really need to be, square in this marketplace. So the thing was, what do you bring different? Just like we did with our Vector, how do we differentiate ourselves into this marketplace? And what you see behind us is kind of a new concept of building fire trucks. So I'll hit a couple of high points, but I really want you to talk to him about how they're used.
Yes.
But in the time is money, right? And everybody talks about these long lead times and how long it takes to get a truck. We've developed a way to build a fire truck here where we actually take the truck and huck rivet it together. If you don't know anything about huck riveting, it's actually stronger than a weld. You don't need certified welders to weld it, and it only goes together one way. So you don't have to worry about tables and warpage and all that kind of stuff. So the way these things get used and the way they get abused, it's really important that they're structurally sound. So that's the first thing. We can build this in a very short period of time. Like right now, we're talking 12-month lead times on this vehicle, where, as you know, in the industry, everything's out way past that. The second thing we do, and it's kind of hard to tell, but if you look at the side of this truck, we do not paint the body on this truck. We have aluminum panels that overlay this truck, where we can take those panels, we paint them on a table in a booth, we can paint multiple at the same time, and then we affix them to the side of the truck so you get your color. Well, with Wildland, you have these things out in the brush, you have them out on fire seats, you have them out and they get extremely hot. I've seen where these trucks come back from the field, and I mean, the paint's just bubbled off of it. On a regular fire truck, you've got to take that truck, you got to take it down, you got to pull it apart, you got to take it and put it in a spray booth. With this, you could have pre-painted panels in your shop, and when you bring it in after the fire scene, you could actually remove and pop on another panel and it's ready to go. So we think there's some things about this that are very unique, that really, like the Vector, really differentiate us from the rest of the business, and we're really excited about that. This truck, just full disclosure, we sold our first 3 to San Diego County Fire.
Outstanding. Congratulations.
We've got multiple other agencies are looking at this. Now, as far as the design, there's in the fire service in California, there's a Cal Fire Model 34. That's kind of the standard Type 3. It's their spec. They buy them, and then a lot of the Schedule A agencies like LA County Fire buy off of that, right? So this is a perfect replica of the Model 3 spec with 2 Darley pumps and pump module. It's got the same wheelbase and everything. We actually use 2 Cal Fire agencies as the customer for this truck, even though they didn't buy it. We basically said, would you guys do the pre-con, the mid, the final? Will you come in and QC the truck? Will you give us your feedback to make sure that we get it right? And they did. So we're pretty excited about that. We're pretty excited about bringing this here. This is its debut, and so here they got it.
Very exciting. Thank you, Mike, very much for that background. Mark, I'd love to bring you into the conversation. When we talk about Wildland, what are some considerations and things that we're looking for when building and designing apparatus?
So our involvement with when we went back into the Wildland apparatus, we've had our Type 1s for years, were built with dual pumps, and they were able to pump and roll, pump the high pressure lines and stuff for brush fires. What we realized is that we were beating up some very expensive pieces of equipment, and we needed to get something more purpose-built. And so we went back to Cal Fire Design, because they run more of these than this style than anybody, and started looking at durability-wise, what do you need? You basically need to carry everything you need with you for the next 21 days on this truck, and have all the hose and all the tools that you need to sustain and go way back into the hills. Sometimes you're up on ridges where you don't want to look down on both sides. So it gets beat up, abused, and then it's got to be serviceable all over the state. We've also started using them in ways, though, instead of just wildland only, is go with an outfit model where it has a multi-risk type of vehicle. So it will run frontline calls on medical calls. They're running it up on top of the Interstate 5, on top of the Grapevine, running it as their only vehicle. So it can be used in those ways.
Fantastic. And I think what's interesting, when you talk about the harsh conditions that these trucks endure, along with the crew that are operating these vehicles, right? We need a design and construction that allows for the truck to take the damage, to take the hits, right? We could speak a little bit about that when we talked about the modular design on the side panels and so on that are, and Mike, if you could speak to this real quick, the design of that, the materials used, overlaid, right, for the heat resistance?
Yeah. So we overlaid this with aluminum. We could overlay it with stainless if somebody felt like stainless would be a better fit. But we actually build this body. This isn't the first time we've done this. We've got a whole different model of regular pumpers where we overlay it with a poly plastic material for weight, and again, easy change on and off. But we felt like going into the wildland that wouldn't hold up to, number one, the heat, and like I said, these things go up into the brush areas where they come back pretty beat up.
Oh, they sure do. And the men and women that operate these trucks, when they go out on those deployments, a lot of credit to them. Other design considerations, things that we want to talk about. We have a dual pumping system on this as well, correct?
Yeah, these vehicles can sit, when you guys talked about pumping on the electric fire engine, this vehicle can sit and pump for 20 hours on any given day. And it can sit there and be pumping low volume lines that you put in that might be a 5,000 foot hose lay, up and down mountains. They carry additional pumps to put in line. And so you have to get water. If you're not going to carry the water, then you're going to have to get these long hose lays. So the combination of how the hose beds get set up and on that, and we take these wildland vehicles, we go out to the wild. When we first got ours set, I was on a fire where we had smoke fire showing on a 2-story residence, and we had 3 lines coming off, of 1 3/4 attack lines going off on this. And it was the only pump that was there at the time because everybody else was on another call. So the dual roles that you can face in having to do both vehicle fires, structure fires, and its wildland component is a challenge when it comes to outfitting and also with the training part of it.
Yeah, real quick, I'd just say, if you ever get an opportunity to watch the videos, I've been out on some of these fire scenes when I was back in California in the camps. It's just a whole nother world. But these are Swiss Army knives, right? Because like he says, you get out there, you can be on a structure that's out in the middle, built out in the middle of nowhere, and you're going to need to fight it like a structure fire, or like, you get on these where you have 5 or 6 of these daisy chained together going up the side of a mountain to pull water from a porta tank or a stream all the way up to where the guys need it on top of the hill. So it's just amazing what these do when they get out on a fire. It's pretty cool.
Swiss Army knife, I think that's a really nice way to put it, as well as a whole lot in a small package. And that's important too to the design and construction of the vehicles, to make sure that the versatility is there for the men and women that are operating.
Yeah, you ever watch these things, cross ranges and different things? And we've got pictures of the way the whole frame flexes, right? When you look in your rear view mirror and you can't see behind you because the body's in the way, right? That's what you're like.
There you go.
So you get through that whole thing, and so your angle of approach, your departure angles, everything that go into it with its wheelbase, and then the ability to have the dual pumping. So when we talk about pumping those long-term things, you'll use the aux pump, right? It's got a little motor diesel, a little bit up there with a smaller pump, but it's designed to run and run and run, and it doesn't then tie up the fuel consumption on that. Because that always gets into when you start taking 3 hours to drive to where your operational period is, and then you have to sit there and pump it the rest of the time. You're always concerned with that.
Yeah, I was just going to say that other pump, the pump and roll that these things can do, you know what I mean, as far as letting down the road or just the versatility of it. But yeah, that diesel pump allows a lot of pump and roll too.
Fantastic. Talk to me about anything that I've missed. I know there's a lot here. This is a lot in a small package. Are there some other considerations and talking points that we want to educate people about on this type 3?
Well, when you think about the complement that goes into these things, he said you have to be able to get water from multiple sources. So you'll have a secondary pumps that you'll also carry, that you can put on a backpack, you'll carry it out. You'll also, when you think about going camping, okay, you're going to have cots. You're going to have sleeping bags. You're going to have things that you're going to stay out there. And there'll be even things where you'll have your coffee makers and your things to supply out there. So you're not just packing this thing full, but the compartment space and how it's created. And so you don't want the body or the build of the vehicle to take up that, very precious cargo space that you need to put on this thing. So when you try to fit things in compartments and everything else, it's definitely a jigsaw puzzle.
When you said that, they literally guys will go in these things for a week at a time out in the woods, and they have to camp and live in this 24 hours a day.
Yeah, I know the deployments. I have a lot of friends in Northern California who get deployed on fires like this. I'm not a wildfire expert by any means. I'm a structural firefighter, but I absolutely respect how wildland firefighters perform. It is wild. I have seen videos of what they drive through in the conditions of zero visibility while trying to protect neighborhoods from conflagrations. It's unbelievable. And the amount of abuse that these apparatus take is considerable.
So for you structural firefighters, if you want to know what it's like doing structure protection in the wildland, you've never done it before. That'd be like going to a structure fire and deciding to put the fire out by climbing down the chimney. So you're going to go down the chimney, and then now you're going to go put the fire out. So we find ourselves in those situations where you're now at the head of the fire on a wind-driven fire where it's coming at you. And so to be able to get into the vehicle for a safe refuge and that kind of stuff, and just get some fresh, clean air and different things. So it's very important that you have that space. We were on fire last year where we had 8 people in the cab because we had to get out of that spot. It's amazing to have that ability to provide that safety as well.
Well, thank you for sharing that, because not everyone here understands what wildland firefighters deal with and endure every time they're deployed. Cap, thank you very much. Mark, I appreciate it. Is there anything else, Mike, that you would like to add, talk about?
Well, actually, Jeremy, I just really want to take a moment on behalf of everybody at REV Fire Group that we represent our 2,000 employees that represent all these brands, and thank you and your team for what you've done, man. You've just done a fantastic job this week, and we really, really appreciate it.
You know, this is a big moment for us. It's really a public validation of the hard work of my team and myself, and I thank you, Mike. You and the REV Group team has been nothing but amazing, and we love partnering with companies that are committed to making the fire service better and pushing the fire service forward. That's what this is all about. That's why we're here today and this week, is making this job better. I challenge all of you, when you leave Indianapolis this week and you go home and you go back to your home departments, you push the job forward and make your fire department better. You make the fire service better. You bridge that gap between young and old, and make sure that you do your part. So at the end of the day, when you hang your helmet up, you know you've made a difference in pushing this job forward. Mike, thank you very much to the REV Group. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mark, Scott, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Everyone, thank you for joining us. The taps are still live. We're done here, but please, we'll turn the music up, have a cold beer, and enjoy. Thank you for joining us in the REV Group at FDIC 2023.